Perhaps the most important question of all time: what is love? And so, an introduction. Love is, first of all, a series, meaning its expression changes over time. As an infant, love is expressed with "I need you." I need you for food. I need you for warmth. I need you for protection. I want to bond with you. I want to attach with you to fulfill my needs. And I feel pleasure when the attachment is secure and my needs are fulfilled by you. And I feel outrage, tantrums, etc. when my needs are not fulfilled, when the bond is insecure. I need you. As an adolescent, and of course I need you is self-centered, appropriately so for an infant, for a child. As an adolescent, it shifts to I want you. I want to manipulate you to meet my needs. I want you to do this and this to make me look good. There's still a certain amount of dependency. And also I want you to make me feel good. I want to have sex with you so that I can feel good. It is another self-centered form of love. And it's not until the adult that we get to the point of love that is anything other than meeting my needs through the other. The adult is a synergy of the child, the adolescent, but it's also something more. And the adult is the first part that can meet our own needs. Unlike an infant, unlike a child, unlike an adolescent, the adult is capable. The definition of the adult, in many ways, is the capability to independently meet our own need to survive, to feel secure, to experience love and belonging, to earn self-esteem, to discover and develop our gifts, to bring those gifts abundantly into the world, and to become part of something more. Self-love is the self-generated fulfillment of our own needs. And as we fulfill our own needs, it also, much like a flower blooming, is a process. So the first step in the art of self-love is loving enough to care. To care. To give a damn, right? And to care, we're talking about the empathic regions of the brain, the empathic centers of consciousness. I care. I empathize with you, right? It's because caring is you're beginning to see the first budding of empathy. I love enough to care is the very first step in the blossom of adult love. And as that blossom opens a little bit more, I care enough to take time. It takes time to love someone. And it's easy to say, I love you, I love everyone. That doesn't take much time, right? But also, they don't feel very loved, right? There's not a lot of intimacy, there's not a lot of attunement, it's just words, right? So I love enough to care, I care enough to take time. But I don't just take time to judge you and compete with you and outmaneuver and manipulate you. Now, I take enough time to see. I take the time it takes to see. To see your thoughts, to see your feelings, to see your strengths, to see your limitations, to see your pain, to see your joy, your well-being, your aspirations. I take enough time to see you. And it's not just enough time to see you. There I see you. I took enough time to see you, right? That's not the fullness of the blossom. I see you enough, right? Because each one leads into the other. That's the nature of a process. All processes are spherical, circular, right? For a wheel to complete a revolution, you begin to turn 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees. One turns into the other. I see you enough to understand you. I understand why you flinch as if you're going to be hit when your father comes into the room. I understand where that physiology comes from. I understand why flowers make you so happy. I understand why you love your little sister so much. I see you enough to understand you. And understand simply means to stand in your footprints, to understand, right? You can see from a distance, but when you understand, it's as if I'm standing under you, looking up through you. I saw you clearly enough to now get it, to see the patterns, how you relate to your reality and why. I see you enough to understand you. And I don't understand you enough to judge you, to dismiss you, to point out that my way is better, right? There we've got dissociation. Judgment is a dissociation. Now, I understand you enough to empathize. You see, because empathy is the natural byproduct of deep understanding. Wow, that's what it's like to be you. You look out of these eyes, you hear these ears, people say these things and you hear this. People do these things and you see this. I understand you. And because I understand you, because one of the reasons we can understand is the phenomena called mirror neurons. And this is where we create a mini replica of the other person in our body to help us feel what their body feels. And that's where empathy comes in. Because when we deeply understand, we're no longer on the outside. When we deeply understand, we're looking from the inside, and we're feeling from the inside of those beliefs, those memories, those physiological experiences. We now understand from the inside because we've internalized the neurons, the mirror neurons that create a model of what it's like to be you. And so we feel, when that phenomena happens and you flinch, we know what it's like. It's like, oh, I remember that when that happened. That's you almost drowned. So every time you see that lake, you flinch. I get it. I flinch a little bit too. When I see that water and remember what it's like to be you, I empathize, meaning I respond emotionally and physiologically because of what you're experiencing. See, and what we're beginning to converge is we're beginning to go from the sociopathic, dissociative identity to the empathic, transcendent identity, where we are becoming attuned. We are on the direction, we're going in the direction of becoming one. And empathy is part of it. When somebody hurts your baby and I feel absolutely nothing, what I'm saying is, you have nothing to do with me. I don't care. I don't see. I don't understand. I don't want to understand. I don't want to feel. We are dissociated. That's you over there. This is me. Love, though, is honoring the promise. It's coming home. It's reuniting the two parts that have been cut in half. It's integrating the ecology, the fabric of all that is. To love is to restore the connection. And so with empathy, when you are in pain, I'm in pain. And if it's not always the case, of course, an adult can love a child that's narcissistic and self-centered. An adult can love an adolescent who's sociopathic, narcissistic, self-centered. An adult can love, a grown-up who's regressed, sociopathic, self-centered, unaware. An adult can love a sociopath, but it will not be returned. The love cannot be returned from a person in a sociopathic state. They're in the reptilian brain that is incapable of empathy. It may be capable of calculation. It can say, oh, they're in a weak point there, get them now. Can observe. A sociopath can be incredibly perceptive, but they don't empathize. It's not for the purpose. It's for the purpose of exploitation, usury, betrayal, etc. So it can be very lonely to be an adult in love, trying to love a sociopath, a reptile that's incapable of love, right? But you're moving towards that attunement. I empathize. I understand enough to empathize. Now, as my body, as my heart starts to feel what it's like to be you, the next step in that love is attunement, right? So when I see your baby falling into the water, and I love enough to care, and I care enough to take time, and I take enough time to see, and I see enough to understand, that you're going to lose your baby in just a moment now. And I understand enough to empathize. Wow, that would be horrible to lose a baby, right? We could stop there. The blossom is opening. We could just say, wow, that's just going to be tough. Really, really, really tough. I get it. But, I'm not going to save your baby. I've got other things to do. I get it. I want you to know, as the baby's drowning, that I really, really get it. We're not in the fullness of love, right? We're getting there, but I empathize enough to respond, to attune to what I'm empathizing about, right? So your baby's fallen into the water. Let me help you get your baby, right? That's the response. That's the attunement. That's the action that comes out of the empathy. But, right, I don't know how to swim, right? I made things worse. I knocked the baby with my backpack, right? Or my cell phone, hit the baby's head, right? So so I empathize enough to respond, to take action, to do something different because of my love for you. But there's a feedback loop. See, it's not just taking some action. It's attuning. It's getting in touch with reality and to take the action that creates the fulfillment of your need to survive, to be secure in that survival, to experience love and belonging, to earn self-esteem, etc., right? So in this case, the baby, we're talking about survival. So we know what needs to happen. The baby needs to come out of the water. The baby's head needs to be protected. The baby needs warmth. Maybe some water needs to be removed from the lungs. That's what needs to happen for survival. And you need survival before you have security of survival. And so as I understand, not just the parent, but now as I understand the needs of the infant, that's part of love, loving enough to care, caring enough to see, seeing enough to understand. Now, if I don't understand that, if I don't love enough to care and care enough to see and understand how water affects lungs and all that, then I don't know, even though I'm moved to take action, and even though I'm taking the action is failing, right? So the love is stillborn. Like if I'm moved enough to take action and I shake your baby and break their neck, it was moving in the right direction. I just didn't do a very good job. I didn't have the competency. I didn't care enough to develop the competency. I didn't understand enough. So I'm moved to take a faulty action. But there's an attunement process in that action, meaning if I'm watching, if I have my goal clear that I want this baby to survive, I'm listening to feedback. Maybe people are talking to me. I'm listening to the baby's feedback. I'm looking at their body. I'm attuned. So I'm taking effective action that facilitates survival, that facilitates security of survival, that facilitates the feeling, the experience of love and belonging. In other words, that facilitates the fulfillment of the needs and then preferences of the other. That is the fullness of adult love. To facilitate your need to become part of something greater than yourself. Your preference to go on a trip to Rome. That's love. And when I love you successfully as an adult, the natural response for someone who has been enabled, who has been supported in meeting their need to survive, feel secure in that survival, experience love and belonging, develop self-esteem, understand and develop their gifts, bring those gifts into the world to create abundance and to become part of something greater than themselves. Such a person feels happy, first of all, and then as they explore their preferences and ways of doing that, feels joy, feels enthusiasm, and feels gratitude and trust for the person that induced that state. Right? And in that gratitude and trust, cares enough or loves enough to care, cares enough to see, sees enough to understand, understands enough to empathize, empathizes enough to become part of something bigger than themselves. Right? Or empathizes enough to attune and attunes enough to succeed at facilitating the needs and preferences of the other. And now the virus of love spreads from one person to another.